My name is Connor Jordan. I'm Deputy Chairman of the Impressionist and Modern Art Department at Christie's. I'm delighted to be talking to you today about the Peggy and David Rockefeller collection, which we will be selling at Christie's in New York in May 2018. We're launching the works here in Hong Kong because Hong Kong is a very important venue for us. It's where many of our Asian collectors gather, and we thought it would be a very exciting thing to bring some of the works, some of the highlights out to our Asian clients. Peggy and David Rockefeller collected for 60 years together. David Rockefeller was the grandson of John D. Rockefeller Sr., the founder of Standard Oil and a titan of the 19th century industry in America. David began collecting in around the 1940s and continued right until very close to his death. He died in the spring of this year at the age of 101. What we have here in this exhibition are some of the fine art, some of the paintings from their collection, as well as some of the pieces of decorative art, some ceramics and bronzes. So it's only a very small portion of what is a very large collection, which will be a great event, an art world event at Christie's in the spring, all of which is actually being sold for charity, which is important to say. So not only is it the largest single owner collection ever sold at auction, but it'll be the largest collection ever sold for charitable purposes. So a very significant part of the Rockefellers' life was their charitable giving. So it'd be nice to start talking about the pictures. Behind me is a Monet painting from the 19-teens. It's one of the series of nymphias that he executed from the 1890s onwards. All paintings of his garden, his beloved garden at his home at Giverny, north of Paris. A garden he, of course, had designed himself, and then for the remaining years of his life, it was his principal subject. David Rockefeller owned a number of Monets. There are 5 Monet paintings in the auction, and Monet, in fact, was one of the places where he started collecting. His first Monet he bought in 1953. This painting he bought in 1956. And on the recommendation of the important curator and museum organizer called Alfred Barr. He was a major figure in the American art world of the mid-century. Another of the highlights in the collection is a Picasso painting, which is showing on the wall here, which was painted in 1905 by Picasso when he was living in Paris, in the north of Paris, in Montmartre. And it depicts a flower seller that he had met. She was selling flowers in a square in Montmartre. And she was called Linda. She was called Linda la Bouquetière. Linda the bouquet girl was her nickname. And it was typical of Picasso at this period, a stage in his career often called the Rose period, when he would choose figures from the bohemian circle around him as his models. And in these working people, these people at the margins, the fringes of society, who it was a hard scrabble life, he would also see in them a great depth of human experience, and it was in his way of giving a sort of commentary on modern city life and its harshness and its poetry, because I think it's an extraordinary painting in that her face is both tough and experienced, but it's also beautiful and poetic, so it has a great combination. It's the first and perhaps it's a long time since there has been a Rose period picture by Picasso on the auction market. The estimate for this picture is in the region of $70 to $90 million, and it's already causing some excitement in the marketplace. Another picture, another highlight of the collection, and very much in contrast with the Picasso, is a painting by Picasso's great competitor, colleague, adversary, Matisse. And this is a Matisse painting from 1923 called Odalisque aux Magnolias. So it's a female nude with magnolias in the centre of the canvas. Magnolias, in fact, that have been applied onto. This is a screen behind, and Matisse stuck the magnolias onto the screen, and it's a meditation on the female form and on art history as well. The subject of the Odalisque was a very important art historical motif. It's also a celebration of pattern and line and colour, counterposing the organic, natural shapes of the flowers and the still life with the man-made patterns of the fabrics. And of course, at its heart, the nude, the female form, and his exploration of its volumes, etc. The estimate on this painting is in the area of $50 to $70 million. And then going back in time a little bit, one of the earliest paintings in the collection, and certainly the earliest picture in this exhibition, is a Corot painting from 1845 of Venice, which was a subject that Corot had first treated in the 1820s. So at the time when it was a very exotic place for Corot to travel to, he was from northern France, he would travel down to Venice. Of course, Venice is a favourite subject in art history, painted by many artists, for all its historical resonances and so on. But what Corot does, and what was so important for the Impressionist generation that followed Corot, and for whom Corot meant a great deal, was he brings in great blonde light, a very inner luminosity to his subject matter, giving it almost a sort of theatrical feeling in a certain way. Well, those are some of the highlights of the fine art. And there are other wonderful objects. There's a great bronze Buddha from the Kangxi era. Maybe we'll have a quick look at that, which was part of an imperial commission to create these, in the late 17th century, wonderful gilded bronze casts of the Buddha. Actually, it's not a Buddha, I think, it's a Buddha form, but highly skillfully created and beautifully worked. So it's of unusual complexity and importance. And then we have a wonderful ceramic here as well, blue and white with the five-clawed dragon chasing pearls coming down from the clouds. Again, a very exciting thing that was found in one of the cupboards at the Rockefeller's house. So yeah, the collection is full of treasures of various different types from various different cultures, and we look forward to welcoming our clients to view the collection over the coming months before the auction at Christie's in May next year.
Hi, so my name is Koji Inoue. I am the co-curator of The Loaded Brush with my colleague Jussi Pulkkanen, who's the global president for Christie's. And The Loaded Brush is really a selling exhibition in which we've brought together the very best works, the most desirable works, specifically for any region. And in fact, as we've seen most of the collecting at the masterpiece level coming from Asia, anywhere from a quarter to 50%, what we really wanted to do was, once again, bring the very best works, museum quality pieces, to Hong Kong in this very special week where we have our auctions. This is all private sale. But now we've expanded the category, not just from the 20th and 21st century, but going all the way to the old masters. So I'm going to just walk you through a few pictures here just to give you a sense of what we put together this year. So there's Joan Mitchell from 1982-83, an absolute masterpiece from her Grand Valet series, of which there are 21 paintings, and I would say that, hand on heart, this is one of the best. In fact, it's been requested for a major retrospective of the series that's happening next year in the United States. It really embodies this idea not only of the loaded brush, but the immediacy, the action with which these painters created these objects, that decisive moment in which they decided to make the mark. And that's been the common theme for the loaded brush since last year when we started it. You'll see that in an example such as this Matisse piano player, or this Peter Doig, or even this Picasso here. Just how quickly and confidently and boldly that Picasso was able to create this very colorful image of his ultimate muse in Mary Therese. And speaking of muses, now we're moving into the pop era in New York. You have Warhol and Lichtenstein, a constant dialogue, just like you had with the Matisse versus Picasso. You have a 64 piece, of Roy Lichtenstein with the most iconic girl image with the speech bubbles. You have a 1963 Liz portrait. Early colored Liz's are extremely rare to the market. And you see these two late Warhol self-portraits with the fright wigs from 1987. These are loans. These two are for sale. And the idea was that we also made this an homage to Asian collectors who have collected works that are desirable on a cosmopolitan scale. So these Warhols were very generous loans to this exhibition to help highlight that dialogue that was happening between these two artists. If you turn around, we have museum quality examples by Van Gogh, by Renoir, two in fact, Rembrandt, Titian. If you come with us, the ever popular Jean-Michel Basquiat, and Sigmar Polke and Gerhard Richter, another pair who are working in collaboration, or they're working through a visual language, counterpointing off of one another. You have their Willem de Kooning's approach to the landscape, the battle between the figure and the ground, and you have even Warhol again with the squeegee and this idea of the iconic beauty of the silver screen. And if you turn around here, we also wanted to make something that talks about the contemporary, the things that are most desirable young artists today. And you have that in the Jonas Wood here, very popular artist, as well as the Marc Grosjean, Peter Doig again, and Rudolf Stingel. And so there's something for everyone here, and I think that this visual language of painting, transcends this idea of this is from an Asian painter like Yan Pei-ming or Chang Sang-hua, or maybe from Jeff Koons to Richard Prince. I really think that there is no, say, Asian art versus Western art. It's all just art, and it's a language that everyone can connect to. And so this exhibition is really about celebrating this. And also, even across time, if we're talking about paintings from 1600 to 2016, it's just a very small time period if you think about it in the context of the human experience. And so we brought together the old masters with the new masters, and you have anybody from Rembrandt to Boremans, and how that speaks between, say, this Francis Bacon over here, or if you even look at this Rubens, and just how fresh and contemporary that still feels. And finally, we have our Mark Rothko here, in which there's this idea of human scale, this almost this portal into a whole other dimension, and it's emotionally moving painting, and it's something that we all relate to. And so it's been a great honor putting this show together with all of my colleagues here at Christie's, and I thank you for coming.
Welcome to Christie's, to our exhibition of Dear Monsieur Monet. The sale, very important sale, since it features the personal collection of Claude Monet. It reveals both the artist but also the collector. We're delighted to have you join us, and I will show you the few works which we are revealing to the public in a few hours for the very first time. They are comprised by some study works from his younger part of his life when he was 17 years old, such as this young child, which comes from his sketchbooks, sketches from boats which he was seeing on the coast, which he loved very much to observe, but also landscape scenes when he was only 17 years old. A few other works were given to him, and he kept them throughout his life, by French artists such as Eugène Boudin, who was one of the first pioneers of open-air painting. You have this scene on the beach, of which the estimate is $2,000, and he was basically the artist who gave the taste to Monet to paint outside. And he said that he owed his success to Boudin throughout his life. But you also have memorabilia. In this sale, for instance, you have this pot, a German 19th century pot, which Monet loved and put in many of his paintings. At the National Gallery, you see one which shows the pots, and another one at the Musée d'Orsay, at the Chicago Art Institute, where you recognize the pots. It's extraordinary that this has survived until this day. And so this is in the sale also, but also paintings by his daughter-in-law, Blanche Chédé, who ended up marrying his younger son, which shows the house of Giverny. And he was very close to her, and clearly there's a great homage that she pays in the depiction of the painting there. Probably the only night scene you will ever see by an Impressionist artist, Monet here, who does this seascape, which announces the future surrealist artists such as Magritte, in the way he captures the light and the contrast between the shadow and the sky. A letter by his friend Signac, with an illustration which is very moving, touching, and actually funny sometimes, where he refers to Bonnard, and it starts with "Dear Monsieur Monet," which we gave the title to the sale. A rediscovered watercolor by Rodin, the only one that the artist gave to Rodin. The expert thought that it was stolen, lost, burnt. In fact, no, this work has survived, and it's reappearing for the first time in this sale. And of course, Monet the collector, his fascination for Orientalism, which you see with this group of prints, Japanese prints, that he acquired after a trip in Holland. He discovered Japanese prints at an antique shop and started to collect them. He had over 200. And these are by the greatest printmakers, Hiroshige, Hokusai, Utamaro, and are very reasonably priced also. A cat, also echoing this fascination for Orientalism, 19th century Edo period, at $3,000, which the Monet Museum would love to have. So if someone wants to buy it and give it to them, you will have your name forever in the Monet Museum and a lunch in your honor at the museum. And you finally have more personal objects, such as a fruit knife with his initials CM at $300, which of course has its charm, in addition to the aesthetic of the piece. And speaking of charm and atmosphere, the last lot of the sale are his own spectacles, which capture the magic of the artist who was battling with eyesight issues towards the end of his life. And despite the eyesight issues, he continued to paint and went for more vibrant colors. So having these glasses is quite a wonderful souvenir for us and for the sale. Enjoy, and thank you again.